Welcome back, everybody, to our latest episode of The Nest. That is the New England Sports Talk Podcast. We had a very eventful week where we saw the Celtics finish the regular season and now prepare for the first round of the playoffs against the Brooklyn Nets. The Red Sox winning their first series of the 2022 season, the Bruins playing 4 games, and the Patriots continuing to have some discussion about the upcoming NFL draft. So we will be discussing all of that. And joining me for today's episode is Rohan Venkatesh. Rohan, how are you doing?
Good as always. Can't complain. Well, I'll change my mind on it. There is actually a lot to complain about, especially with the Bruins. But, got a little bit of a mixed record over there. They did clinch a playoff spot today, so I can't really complain about that. But otherwise, a pretty atrocious week for the Bruins. Celtics are going to the playoffs, though, so that's always good. And, baseball's back. It didn't really start the way I wanted to, but, that series went against Detroit. And, the kind of the 1-1 start to the series against Minnesota, not bad. 4-4, that's pretty much definition of mediocre. So, it could be better. It could also be worse, but we'll see how things go.
Yeah, definitely. But we will be starting our discussion, deservedly so, with the Boston Celtics, who begin their first round series tomorrow against the Brooklyn Nets. That means, yes, once again, it'll be Jason Tatum, and this time Jaylen Brown will be healthy and ready to go. Last season, he was, of course, injured and missed the first round against Brooklyn, but this season he'll be ready to go. And of course, they have to face Brooklyn, which means Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. This time, no James Harden, though, because James Harden, of course, is now with the Philadelphia 76ers. So let's just talk about this matchup first. So, obviously for me, I think it's going to be a tough one, right? Like, obviously the Celtics.
It's the toughest matchup that the Celtics probably could have gotten. And I think this is the matchup that they really weren't looking forward to.
Here's the thing. I don't know.
They probably would have preferred to play the. They probably would have preferred to play the Bulls, or actually no. Maybe I think they would have matched up worse against the Bucks. But of all the possible matchups, the Nets are probably one of the tougher ones, especially because you do have to take on that duo of KD and Kyrie Irving, and that's a pretty deadly duo. Especially Kyrie Irving, and given his history with the Celtics, he knows this team like pretty well, because it hasn't been that long since he left the Celtics. And anytime you're going up against KD, that's going to be a big deal as well. But we got our big guns too. We got our big guns, Celtics, Tatum and Brown. That's our duo, right? And then of course, but I would say the key difference that I would say probably gives Boston the edge over here is that the supporting cast. The supporting cast for Boston with Daniel Tice, Marcus Smart, and Al Horford, probably they do a remarkable job, and they may not be stars, but they can also produce. And not only can they produce, but they can definitely complement Tatum and Brown. Obviously for the Nets, they also have their supporting cast, but I don't think it's anywhere near as potent when you think of the collective, the team as a whole. Coaching wise, I think Steve Nash is a pretty good coach. So I think we're pretty much even over there. Ime Udoka is doing a phenomenal job in Boston. So there's not really much to separate the sides over there. But other than that, I'd say pretty much dead split. Offensively, Celtics average 114.4 points per game. Nets average 113.6. So they're pretty much like neck and neck on offense. On defense, the Celtics on average allow 106.9 points per game. So that is the best defense in the league. And the Nets, they got the 18th, they're 18th in defense in the league, allowing 112.8 opponent points per game. So that's really where the discrepancies lie. So the discrepancies, I would say, that give Boston the advantage would definitely have to be the defense and the supporting players. In terms of the head-to-head with the superstars, I'd say about even. KD and Kyrie Irving versus Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, I think that's about even. But the defense and the supporting cast definitely advantage Celtics on that. And it doesn't hurt that the Celtics have beaten the Nets before, 126-120 on March 6th. So the Celtics have shown us that they're able to take this team on. So not that in and of itself is any predictor, but it's a good indication.
Yeah, I agree for the most part, right? Like, I think it's going to come down to how well, it's going to really come down to Jason Tatum and really, I'll say more importantly, Jaylen Brown, because Tatum, I expect him to be great against Brooklyn's defense. Last time you mentioned the March 6th game, he scored 54 points that day. And Durant, for reference, scored 37 that day. So, but the thing is, you can't keep expecting Jason Tatum to go and score 50 points every day against this Brooklyn team, right? So at some point, if you can expect Tatum to maybe score like 30, 35, and then Brown can give another 25, 30 points, then that's going to help a lot. You're going to basically help kind of shoulder the load away from Jason Tatum and also have Jaylen Brown. And then Marcus Smart, I'm going to be very honest here, because we've heard this year he's a defensive player of the year candidate. And obviously I know this won't like make an impact on the voting for the end, but I mean, this is Marcus Smart's like good opportunity for Marcus Smart to really kind of show to everyone why he should be the defensive player of the year. Because if he has a very elite series and can really lock down Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and the Brooklyn offense, which is very potent, Bruce Brown, Andre Drummond, what's his name, Seth Curry, all sorts of different players on the Nets offense who are very potent, then that's going to be very important for Marcus Smart here. And obviously we'll see if Robert Williams III is actually available, because Ben Simmons for the Nets
looks like he's not going to be. It looks like he's going to be out. Ben Simmons, it looks like he's going to be out as well.
But I'm not really expecting
but it looks like but Ben Simmons might come back like mid-series. I think currently the medical reports are currently saying that he could be in and around Game 4, but that's a constantly evolving situation. So we'll see how that.
Yeah, I mean, even I'll just mention this about Ben Simmons. I mean, he hasn't played a game at all since last June, so I really don't have much expectation at all, and neither really should the Nets, on what Ben Simmons can contribute to this year's team, because he hasn't played a game since last year. And at that time, he was a member of the Philadelphia 76ers. Well,
it's hard to expect a lot, but at the same time, it's also just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, to underestimate it, because really, if you hasn't played in a while, so it could really just be he could be a total wild card. He could come out there and totally be a bust. He could come out there and be a star. It could really go. And
I don't think he's going to be a star. Like, he might make some impact on the team, but I don't think you can really expect him to like really do a major contribution for this year's like Nets team. Like, I would be stunned if Ben Simmons is anything more than a role player for this series, if he does end up playing and contributing in some role. So like, I mean, that's just how it is, right? Like, he hasn't
I think he definitely can be a role player. He can definitely support he can support the big two on that team. The same way Marcus Smart has kind of been the role player for the Celtics for a while, but I think
Marcus Smart has been playing the whole year.
But over the course of this season, I think his status has definitely evolved to almost like you said, this like elite level defensive player.
Yeah, but Marcus Smart has been playing the whole season, right? So we don't question what Marcus Smart can bring in terms of an impact. But Ben Simmons hasn't played a game for the Brooklyn Nets so far, right? His last game was with a different team, the Philadelphia 76ers last year. So we don't even know how well he's going to just mix in all of a sudden with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, right? Like, we don't know how all of a sudden the chemistry is going to be impacted.
Yeah, it takes time. It takes time to build chemistry with the rest of your team. So yeah, but that's not to say that it can't happen, right?
Yeah, it can happen.
But it's a total wild card. It is
I
a
really
real
don't think he's going to make that much of a major like contribution to this series. So I'm not too worried about him. Like, but obviously, yeah, I mean, I guess the Cavaliers in the play-in game, Kyrie Irving scored 34 points, Kevin Durant scored 25 points, and the Nets only won that game 115-108. And the Cavaliers the whole time kept it close. Darius Garland of the Cavaliers scored 34 points. So this shows me the Nets defense is pretty bad. So this is really kind of where the Celtics need to exploit that as much as they can. Like, obviously Tatum should really be having like a high 30s type of performance every day.
Tatum and Brown totally have the potential to just outright beat up on this team.
Yeah, and I think the Celtics, I think the key, as you mentioned it, is going to be like the role players. So obviously Tatum and Brown, we know what they're capable of doing, but guys like Marcus Smart, Derek White, Al Horford, Daniel Tice, and Peyton Pritchard, like, you sort of look at the rest of that offense, the rotation, and if those guys can really get it going and kind of really sort of like hurt the Nets on defense, then that's going to be really what sort of helps the Celtics win the series. So, I mean, that's sort of how I'm looking at it. Like, I mean, the Celtics did win the series 3-1, but if you look at those 4 games, the only one that really matters is the March 6th game, because that's going to be the one that most, like, the roster was like the most similar to what it is now, right? Because the Celtics won 2 times when Kevin Durant was out, Kyrie Irving wasn't playing. And the first matchup was back in November when the Celtics were still trying to figure out their identity. And at the time, Kyrie Irving didn't play. And actually the Nets had James Harden at the time with Kevin Durant. So different team altogether than what it is now. So,
and also the Celtics themselves were a totally different team, even though most of the players are the same. The Celtics were just terrible then.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key for the Celtics is
it's really a tale of two. It's really been a tale of two seasons. This is the 2021-2022 season, but it almost seems as if the 2021 part and the 2022 part are two completely different seasons.
Yeah, I mean, they started 18-21 and they finished 51-31, which is terrific. So, I mean, I think, the Celtics are playing great right now, and I think it's going to be very interesting because they could have avoided this matchup, right? Because going into last Sunday, when the Bucks lost to the Cavaliers, the Celtics, if they had lost to the Memphis Grizzlies, they would have
that.
But they actually
if they'd thrown that game, I guess if they'd thrown that game, they probably would have played the Bulls. But
they sought it out. I mean, they sought it out. They beat Memphis 139-110, and with the Bucks losing, they finished as a second seed. And so, I mean, I think it shows you the Celtics have confidence, and I think they should, right? Because this is also kind of like, I mean, for this team, I think at some point you have to kind of wonder, like,
if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's how they're sort of looking at it, right? Like Jason Tatum, like every time, I think he really embraces it when he plays against the stars of the league, like Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James. He really embraces it. And that's when we sort of see the best Jason Tatum we've seen, right? When he faces like off against like the stars. So I think that's sort of going to be like what I'm sort of interested in, because like this could kind of be like a changing of the guard, right? Like in a way, like obviously Kevin Durant, like he's widely considered the best player in the NBA. Sure, maybe Giannis is up there too. Maybe it's either Giannis or Kevin Durant. One of those two, they're the best player in the league. So if Jason Tatum can go toe-to-toe with Kevin Durant and actually beat him in a series, I just want to bring this for reference because this is kind of important.
Oh, I got to stop right there. You're really not even including Steph Curry, LeBron James. You're not even including them in that list.
Oh, LeBron James not anymore. I mean, yes, historically, yes, but not anymore. And no, Steph Curry, no, not at this point either.
Not like you're not even bringing them close to this list. It's okay.
LeBron James anymore. LeBron James's Lakers didn't even make the playoffs.
Well, yeah. So if you're only looking at players who are in the playoffs, sure. But Steph Curry, I mean, the Warriors are in the playoffs.
Yeah,
they are in.
I mean, yeah, okay, but I mean,
but Steph Curry was good like
Kevin Durant
several years
was
ago.
Still better than Kevin Durant. Sorry,
and it's not like Kevin Durant is like really that young either.
Yeah, but I mean, you can either say like, I mean, usually the consensus is you have either one of Giannis or Kevin Durant at 1 or 2, right? That's sort of how it's gone the past couple of years. Steph Curry was there, definitely. He's still really good. So I'm not really saying that. But like, anyways, I'm just trying to say, the point I'm trying to make is usually the team that's been able to beat Kevin Durant in the playoffs, that team is in the NBA Finals, just for reference, right? I mean, if you go back to 2010, since KD's first year in the playoffs, when he made the playoffs for the first time, when he was a member of the Oklahoma City Thunder, really, with the exception
Lakers beat him,
of
right?
2013, that he was the Lakers in 2010, but really with the exception of 2013 when the Grizzlies beat the Thunder, and that was when Kevin Durant was just, I think, playing on his own because Russell Westbrook was out for the season. But really, at the time, what happened was, I mean, really, if you exclude 2013, every other team that has beaten Kevin Durant in the playoffs has won the NBA Finals or at least made it to the NBA Finals, just for reference, right? Like last year, even when it was Milwaukee and Giannis who knocked them out in the second round and they won the finals in the end. So really, that's kind of a bar you look at. Like the team that is able to knock out Kevin Durant, that team is a championship contender for sure. So if you can win the series, that is going to be immensely enormous for this team, I think, going forward.
I think the rest of the league and the fans are underestimating the Celtics. I really think so. Because if you look at this series, I mean, betting wise, it's pretty much even, right? But I don't think that this really should be even. I think this would be decidedly advantage Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand, right? Because I mean, at the same time, I think a lot of people see the star power, right? Like they see Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, so they're automatically assuming that this team is going to be like a championship contender, right? Like because at the start of the season, everyone assumed that this year Brooklyn would have a great year, like regular season, but obviously due to
but they've shown their struggles though. The Nets have shown their struggles, and the Celtics.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think the
dominance.
Celtics have an advantage when it comes to coaching. I think Ime Udoka is a lot better of a head coach. He's a much better head coach than Steve Nash is. So I'm not really worried about that part. I think it's going to come down to whether or not the Celtics can really kind of execute on all phases of the game. So that's what's going to be interesting to me. Like, I mean, at this point, they really should win this series, but I think it's going to come down to like late game adjustments, like close games, what sort of happens late in the contest. And I do think like they have the potential to win the series, but it's going to come down a lot of things.
There might be some close games, and the thing is we haven't really seen the Celtics in a lot of close games.
Yeah, that's sort of like what makes me a little
because I mean the Celtics have been winning a lot, but they pretty much been steamrolled.
I mean, though against Brooklyn they did win that game by 6, so I feel like I think it is something against playing Kevin Durant where like Jason Tatum just tries to take his game to the next level. Maybe it's just because he's really like it's one of those things like when you play against one of the best players in the league, it just motivates you to play at your best. So I think this is an advantageous matchup in that sense. In the sense that I think we'll hopefully get the best of Jason Tatum. And if we do, then I think the Celtics should be able to win the series. But let's go into the predictions now because this is going to be interesting. So,
you probably know my prediction by then.
It was Nets in 5 last year, right? That's what happened last year. Yeah. The Nets won the series in 5. So
it was a pretty ugly series last year.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Tatum, the one win they had, he scored 50. But I mean, that's a different team altogether. Kevin Durant has also been insistent to say this isn't similar to last year at all. I mean, obviously last year the Celtics were the 7 seed. This year the 2 seeds. So literally like a complete role reversal from last year. So I mean, Rohan, what's your pick?
So yeah, you probably know by now that I've been saying advantage Celtics all over. I don't think that the Nets are anything to be taken lightly though. I think they'll win a couple of games, but overall I'm gonna have to go with Celtics in 6.
Okay, so I'll be saying Celtics in 7. I think it's just gonna come down to game 7. Like I think it's just gonna be one of those matchups, and I think it'll be one that will be remembered for a long time. So I'm going to say Celtics in 7, and Jason Tatum is able to, and Jaylen Brown are able to lead the Celtics to the second round. So that's going to be my prediction. So both of us do have the Celtics winning the series. I'm a little anxious, but you know what? I've been pretty high on the Celtics now for a while. So now it's time for me to kind of show my confidence in how far I think this team can go. So yeah, I think Celtics in 7.
I know. But you know me, I'm pessimistic and skeptical when it's warranted, and the Celtics have shown me like every reason to believe that this team is a really, really good team.
Yeah. So game 1 is tomorrow, so
that's gonna be exciting.
Get a good sense of what sort of this team's capable of.
Yeah, from the Garden. So that's what really matters. Home court really does matter, and NBA home court matters a lot.
And by the way, I do think tomorrow, regardless of the series outcome, the Celtics should win game 1 tomorrow. So yeah, I think they will. I do expect them to win game 1. It's going to be an electric atmosphere in Boston, and Tatum and Brown are going to feed off that energy, as is the whole team. Celtics will definitely win game 1. I think that's my prediction for tomorrow as well.
Yeah, I think the Celtics should take game 1. I think it's going to be kind of close-ish though, but I think the Celtics should pull away with the win tomorrow.
Definitely. Okay, yeah, so here's our Celtics preview. So obviously we are excited for the Celtics, and hopefully there's a win tomorrow for the Celtics. So let's see what happens.
You want to head to the Diamond?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously Red Sox, right? A little bit mixed. I mean, 4-4 record. I mean, nice win against Minnesota today, though. 4-0. I mean, it's good to kind of
first shot out of the year. Tanner Houck pitched well. That was good.
He did good. He did good. I mean, I'm happy because like it's sort of been tough, right? Like the pitching has been sort of uneven.
Especially the starting pitching has really, really struggled.
Yeah,
the bullpen is pretty much the only reason that this team is even somewhat semi-respectable,
right? In 8 games this year for the starting rotation, right? The starter has only made it to the 5th inning 3 times, including one of those times was today with Houck. But I mean, that's kind of tough, right? Like 5 times the bullpen is basically tasked to like go multiple innings, which is hard, right? You can't expect that already, like especially early in the season. You don't want the bullpen to kind of all of a sudden accumulate so many innings early on. So I'm a little bit anxious about that. But today was a good performance, right? It was nice to see Bogaerts and Verdugo both hit 2-run home runs. And I mean, but like I don't know, even against like Detroit.
But I have mixed feelings against the offense too, right? I mean, because the first game of the season against the Yankees, of course, that definitely felt like a slugfest. But like those like that first game against Detroit.
Yeah, 3-1.
The offense just looked like totally anemic. It kind of reminded me of that series last year against the Astros.
Yeah, I think that's just sort of how the offense is structured.
As I was seeing, it's like, I was thinking, oh my, not again. Like it just felt like the nightmare from last year's
offense. I feel that's sort of like how the offense is just sort of structured, right? Like sometimes they'll look really good, but other times they'll look completely dead, which is sort of the problem, right? Like, I mean, I think we saw both sides against Houston last year in the LCS, right? Like for a couple games, the offense looked like unstoppable, and then all of a sudden the offense like couldn't even score a run.
But I would say I think the Achilles heel for the Red Sox on offense definitely has to be their over reliance on the home run rate. Yeah, like even all like today, like all the run production came on home runs. That's not going to be sustainable because not everyone's going to be able to like produce power like when you need it the most. Yes, it's nice when they do, but to have a sustainably good offense, you need people to show up back to back and put up a string of hits together and then bring people home. That's how any offense sustains itself. This is really quite literally hit or miss, right? Yeah, if they homer, great. Otherwise, nothing. Like it's just it's almost like there's no in between.
Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of like how baseball is sort of becoming nowadays, right? It's very much reliant on the home run ball. That's sort of just how baseball is nowadays, right? I think that's sort of what the analytics is sort of pushing it towards, right?
Well, yeah, there are fewer balls in play. I mean, the outcome of most at bats is either a home run or a strikeout or a walk. That's pretty much the outcome of every single at bat.
I mean, I think overall that's sort of just how the flow of the game is now. So I think that's sort of like what we'll just sort of have to get used to. But I mean, overall, I think 4-4 isn't too bad. Like, I mean, I think they're still sort of in the mix for the division. It's not like they've really fallen too far behind anyone.
Yeah, but losing 2 out of 3 to the Yankees, that can come back to bite you like late in the season.
Yeah, especially but the first season, and at least they won once.
No, but okay. yeah, but also it's against a division foe who's very likely going to be contending for the division title. And when it goes down to the wire at the end of the season, if we see these teams like within 2 or 3 games of each other, then yes, these the 2 games that they lost against the Yankees, games 1 and 2 of the season, those are going to loom. It's not like games late in the season matter more than they do early in the season. Like they're all counted the same. They're all counted equally in the standings. So when you lose to a division foe, it's that hurts. It does hurt. I mean, the first one was definitely unfortunate. The second one, yeah, that one was like the Red Sox just didn't play well.
Honestly, in that series against the Yankees, the Red Sox could have gone anywhere between winning all 3 games and losing all 3 games. That's how close they were. And I guess they won 1 of the 3, which is at least avoiding the worst case situation of getting swept. But I mean, it wasn't like a great series. I agree, but at least I'm glad that they at least salvaged it with 1. So,
and then the series win against Detroit was
I don't know. Like I felt that was like I just wanted to also talk about that because the final game it was like they led 9-2 in the 7th inning, and then Austin Davis and Cutter Crawford proceeded to allow 5 runs in the next 2 innings to make it 9-7. So they made a 9-2 Red Sox, like probably what should have been an easy 9-2 win, into a very uncomfortable 9-7 win, which was not good.
Unfortunately, the pitching has just been like erratic.
It depends, right? I think like Jake Diekman, I like him so far. Diekman and Hansel Robles has been good. Obviously, Garrett Whitlock has been excellent again. I mean, I'm very happy they extended him. And like, I think it's really mixed, right? Like, I think Houck, Waka, and Evaldi, like really Evaldi's like their own.
That's pretty much gonna be the core of the team. Obviously, like with Pivetta, I think that he's kind of
that has had 2 bad
starts. Like
he's been bad.
So 2 starts. It's been both of them have been pretty bad. I hope that's not representative of him as a player because. Like this is not good.
They need to expect more out of Pivetta. He has not been getting the job done. Like, but also let's just talk about this, right? Because this has been kind of like an overarching like discussion point. Like Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers, both of their contract situations are now a little bit kind of uncertain. And it's a little bit concerning, right? Because Bogaerts is going to be 29. So Bogaerts is actually going to be 30 in October, and Devers is 25 right now. He'll also be 26 in October. So here's the thing, right? So like Bogaerts and Devers. Bogaerts is 4 years older than Devers. So the question probably ends up becoming, if the Red Sox choose to extend one of the 2 and they can't extend both for whatever reason, do they probably extend Devers, right? Because he's younger. So that's probably what they're going to be choosing to do. But I am a little bit like uneasy on this whole situation because I think with Bogaerts, they're sort of preparing already for him to leave. Like when they signed Trevor Story to a 6-year contract, that with Story is usually
I'll be really unfortunate to see Xander Bogaerts leave though because I mean I get it. I get it. Don't go for these big signings. Like try the money ball approach. I mean,
but it doesn't make sense on
I know
right?
Chaim Bloom generally does that, and I generally support his strategy.
And the age thing, you can't even use the age thing against Bogaerts, right?
But these are core players on our team, and if there is a time to splurge, it is on them. Like
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like you can't.
You got. I mean, it's
like you can't say Bogarts is getting older, so that's why we want to move on from him. Because you signed Trevor Story, who's actually older than Bogarts, to a 6-year contract through his age 36 season. So if you're willing to do that with Trevor Story, you should also be willing to do that with Xander Bogaerts too. So like, I would personally try to extend both of them, and I'm not happy that the discussion point is crucial to stand.
It's crucial to hang on to both of them.
I mean, I think both of them are so good on offense too. Like,
the offense is like the only thing that's holding this team up, because the pitching has just been like pretty bad. Like, if there's no way to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's going to be whether or not, like, I think it seems like Bogarts, they've made an offer to Bogarts, but it's well below what Bogarts expected.
It seems like Devers is in that situation as well.
Yeah, it's a little bit concerning, like, going forward. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess we'll kind of have to see how everything plays out, just because, like, you know, like at the time, like with Mookie Betts, right? They let Mookie Betts, like, they traded him to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and they were able to kind of like rebound from that fine, right? It took a couple years, but I mean, they got Alex Verdugo in that trade. Alex Verdugo obviously is not Mookie Betts at all in terms of the type of player, but
he's pretty good though.
Yeah, he's pretty good. So like, I mean, maybe we'll see what they end up doing, and I'm sure maybe Chaim Bloom has some plan. Like I think he's at least earned my trust now, like to see sort of how he handles everything, even if I don't agree with it. Like Mookie Betts, trading him with a wildly unpopular decision, but now the Red Sox don't really talk about that anymore, right? How many people still talk about like trying to, like, if they wish that Mookie Betts was still on the team, right? I mean, obviously we wish that, but I mean, no one really talks about it because the team has been able to show that they can still be a good team. They made it to the ALCS last year with Alex Verdugo on that team. So I will give Chaim Bloom the benefit of the doubt, even if I do kind of disagree with some of his tactics, because look, at the end of the day, it's working. Like, this is a contending team again, as was what was basically promised to us. So at the end of the day, I do trust Chaim Bloom in whatever he does. Maybe it's a little bit naive on my end, but like at the same time, I mean, he's given the results now, right?
But
the Red Sox,
Chaim Bloom, if you're listening, please don't let these two go.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they keep on. I think they'll likely hold on to Devers for sure. Bogarts, though, I'm starting to think that he is likely gone after this like season. So that's sort of my hunch, but we'll see. Like, and I don't think it has anything to do with how the Red Sox finished at the end of the day. Like, let's just not forget, right? Freddie Freeman won the World Series.
So then where does he go? So then where does Bogarts go? Does he go to the Dodgers and like reunite with Mookie Betts?
I mean, a lot of teams would be paying a lot of. I'm sure a lot of teams would be interested and willing to pay a lot for a shortstop of Bogarts' caliber. So I'm sure he'll have plenty of suitors in free agency should it get to that point where he actually enters free agency and the Red Sox don't give him a contract.
But I mean, who's going to open their wallets though for someone like Xander Bogaerts? Like only like who else would, like the Yankees? Like,
I mean, there are teams that spend, right? So I mean, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. Like off the top of my head, I don't know, but I'm sure one of the premier shortstops in the league, if he's a free agent, there will be a lot of teams who are willing to like sign him, right?
Yeah.
One of the best players in the league, right? At the end of the day, at his position, he's one of the best shortstops in baseball.
There definitely would be a very hot market for him.
Yeah, so I mean, if he goes into free agency, that's going to make it even harder for the Red Sox to sign him because all of a sudden his price is going to skyrocket, and someone will be willing to pay him a lot of money over the next several years, which I'm pretty sure the Red Sox will not be able to match if it gets to that point. So I think we'll have to see sort of what happens. Like, obviously, they're $100 million off in contract negotiations right now, which is pretty bad. So I'm not expecting much at this point, but we'll see. I mean, hopefully something will change, but I'm not feeling too good.
But if both of these players go, that would be a disaster.
Yeah, if they lose both Devers and Bogarts, that would be very, very unfortunate. But yeah, you know, that hasn't happened yet. So let's at least be optimistic that at least one of the two the Red Sox can hold on to for the long haul. But I don't know. You never know what's going to happen in baseball. So yeah, I mean, that's what.
But you know, it was good to get that first shutout of the year out of the way, first home win out of the way. Of course, the home opener was like pretty disappointing. Although the pregame ceremonies were pretty good, and marking Jackie Robinson Day and honoring Jerry Remy. So that was always good to see that.
Yeah, I think like at the end of the day, like I think it's going to come down to how well this team plays at Fenway Park, right? Like, I mean, this team has usually been very strong at home. Even in the seasons like where they were like last place, they still have
Fenway Park.
Season.
Fenway Park is generally a fortress, generally speaking.
Oh, I think that's why I think it's good to always kind of obviously look. It's still early for me, so I'm not too worried about the start. Like they're 4-4, which is fine. So, I mean, you know, like it happens. Like it's a long season and there are ups and downs. And yeah, this has been great so far. But, you know, the Yankees also lost to the Orioles yesterday, who like were 1-5, and they lost on a walk-off walk to the Orioles.
Sure.
So, you know what? It can happen anyway.
Hey, the Red Sox got swept by the Orioles in the first series of last year. So anything can happen.
Exactly. So I'm not too worried yet. I mean, so far 4-4, it's okay for me. I mean, obviously, I'll be more concerned. Like if they're still sort of kind of teetering, being mediocre around May time, and they haven't really launched by like May, then I'll be kind of concerned for the season. But it hasn't gotten to that point yet. 4-4 is okay after 8 games. It's okay with me.
So yes, we're 8 down and 154 to go.
Exactly. Yeah. Long season still. So we'll have to see. I mean, but yeah, let's talk about the Bruins now a little bit. I mean, obviously kind of
that was okay. This
not
is
a great week.
This I would even almost argue a disastrous weekend.
Well, obviously, they did beat the Penguins today, at least.
They beat the Penguins today. They clinched a playoff spot, so at least they did that. At least they took care of business. But oh man, like when they lost against the Capitals, I thought, okay, it's a blip, right? But then the loss to the Blues was like pretty bad.
That was bad. And then Ottawa, 3-2.
That one was. They had a 2-goal lead going into the second
3 goals in the second
period.
period.
And they just completely blew it. Not only that, they lost Linus Ullmark, and recently Linus Ullmark has been playing better than Swayman because Swayman's generally he's generally good, but in the last like couple of weeks or so, Swayman's kind of
but Swayman was pretty good yesterday. But today.
He was really good today though. Yeah, and even in that loss against Ottawa, the Senators had lots of chances in the third period, and Swayman shut him down. So I mean, that game could have very easily finished 4-2, 5-2, but there was like a breakaway that Swayman stopped, and I think there was like another 2-on-1 or something. But the Ottawa the Senators offense was like all over the place. They were just pounding on the Bruins yesterday, especially during that third period. But the scary part is that the Bruins defense is allowing this to a team that's pretty close to dead last. The Blues, I get it. I mean, they're on a hot streak. I mean, they're on a winning streak, and generally the Blues are a decently good team. Even though you don't like to lose 4-2, it's okay, whatever. It's a good team. But the Senators one, they really should have had that one. They really should have taken care of it. And but you know, being Pittsburgh today, Pittsburgh generally a good team. So I guess it's not really indicative about where this team is in the standings. That's not really a good indicator of how the Bruins end up playing against them. So the Bruins have surprised me in both ways, in both directions. They tend to play well against good teams. They tend to not play so well against bad teams. So maybe it means they play down to their opposition, but I don't know. Like I can't get inside their head, but based on what I see, this is really, really not good. This is only the first time that the Bruins are on a 3-game losing streak the entire season. Yeah, like it's not a total F for the week, but I'd say it's like a solid C- pretty much. Yeah, I got to give him credit for that one win, but and making the playoffs. That's always a big deal. But you know, the reason I'm giving them a C- and not something in the D range is that at this point, just keeping your players healthy and making it to the come playoff time is going to be important, because going after those extra wins for higher seeding, I don't think is really worth it, because it's not like other sports where being at home matters. Home ice in hockey historically doesn't matter as much. What does matter more is having a healthy core of players. And right now it's not looking good, because like it looks like Pasternak has been out, Grzelcyk is out, and after that game against the Senators, Ullmark is out. So I want to say that the reasons, if the recent struggles have been because of injuries, and we get these players back, then I'm not so worried. But regardless, though, like watching that last week was pretty ugly. There's no way to sugarcoat that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a little bit like, I mean, obviously, I think the losses I would say it wasn't a great week, but at least they showed me something against Pittsburgh today, because they had been struggling. And at least being a good team like Pittsburgh at least gives me some confidence that they can turn it around. It was great to see Trent Frederic.
They got a chance to redeem themselves next week, because they play the Blues again next week, and they play the Penguins again. So it's a chance for redemption against the Blues, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bruins, like they've shown like all season, right? Like my always take on the Bruins is the regular season isn't really like I can't really take much out of the regular season, because every year the regular season.
That's just hockey in general. That's just hockey in general, because it's not too uncommon to see like lower seeded teams make these deep runs in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, so
that's not
Bruins. It really
Bruins
depends
phenomenon.
on who they end up playing in the first round, right? Right, like if they face like Carolina or like Florida,
that would
that's
be
going to be kind of problematic.
Yeah. I would
But
not
I think
want to
that's
face.
sort of where I'm going to sort of be like, if I don't know like how entirely, because I think there's still a couple games left.
I believe if the season
no.
were to end today, I think they'd be playing Carolina, which is I would say probably the nightmare scenario.
Yeah, that would be very difficult. So hopefully they can avoid Carolina at all costs. Yeah, I mean that's sort of our Bruins. But do you want to talk anything else about the Bruins?
Yeah. I mean, they just got a few more games left, and just stay healthy, right? Don't try to do anything drastic. I know. Coach Cassidy, he's been like not too happy the last few games either, but he's a good coach. He'll find a way to pull through this.
Yeah, no, definitely. So that's sort of our Bruins take. Not much. Obviously, we'll be talking more as the playoffs begin, but it is good to see the Bruins in the playoffs again. So we'll definitely be talking about them more as the playoffs start, as we will with the Celtics. So let's just quickly 5-minute Patriot discussion. Like, how are you feeling about the draft coming up? Is there any position that really you're hoping the Patriots address?
Not particularly. I mean, our QB position is pretty much set. Mac Jones is pretty much
set in that position.
Wide receiver? We probably need a wide receiver. We probably need a tight end as well. I think our corner situation is pretty much good. I mean, we got Malcolm Butler.
Wait, you're happy with Malcolm Butler at cornerback?
Yeah. Why not?
Okay.
Why not?
I mean, he just also retired recently and came out of retirement, so I'm a little bit hesitant to just assume that he'll even be with the team in week 1. Like, we don't know what'll happen all of a sudden. So,
but I'll be looking to see what the market is like for tight ends and wide receivers. That's kind of what I'd be.
Tight end. I mean, are you assuming Jonnu Smith isn't going to bounce back then?
It might. It looks a little tough. I granted I don't know too much about the details, but there's got to be I think our offensive core, the supporting cast for Mac Jones is probably.
They still have Hunter Henry, right? Who's a pretty good tight end from last year. So
that's there. But I like to see it. I like to see us improve our offensive line because there were a lot of situations where Mac Jones would put under a lot of pressure. Yes, good quarterbacks can take that kind of pressure, but it's the offensive line's job to protect them from that. And unfortunately, there have been many times when I didn't really see that kind of protection. So I like to see something on that front as well. But that's just my take.
Yeah, draft is coming up in a few weeks, 2 weeks, I think. So
yep,
talking more about that going forward too.
Yep, come draft day.
Yep. But yeah, that's going to be it for this week. Obviously, big Celtics game tomorrow, and we hope the Bruins and Red Sox continue to play well. So, I mean, I guess hopefully for the Bruins, they kind of use this win as a catalyst for the rest of their season, regular season and playoffs. So yeah, let's see what happens going forward. But yeah, that will be our episode. We'll be back next week again to recap the Celtics.
It's Bruins, playoff time.
And whatever Patriots news we have.
All right. Peace.